This is my new to me but built in 2001 Sea Otter narrowboat for the canals. It's 26 feet long and built of marine grade aluminium. The metal is 5 or 6 millimeters thick, depending where on the boat it is. At the back is a cruiser stern, that is an open deck where you steer or sit out of an evening with a gin and tonic. Wooden taffrail seats provide a location for your bottom to rest. The tiller is the traditional swan neck narrowboat style, which directly drives a rudder you can just see there under the water. Impact protection is given by these rubber bumpers all the way around, a bit like a go-kart. A cleat on either side gives you somewhere to secure the boat when moored. And here you also find the diesel filler cap for the Yanmar 21 horsepower marine engine. Little holes in the back provide drainage for any rainwater that gets in under the deck boards. The deck boards are split into 4 separate pieces, which can be lifted up for access to items underneath. The most obvious of those items would be the engine, a Barras Shire Yanmar 21 horsepower with a new age PRM 80 gearbox. Also down here, above the propeller, you have the weed hatch, enabling access to get items off the prop which have fouled it without actually having to go into the canal. The engine is cooled not by raw water but by a skin tank on the side of the boat, which acts as a heat exchanger, taking the heat away from the engine and into the canal water. Also under here is the leisure battery and the engine starter battery. A split charge diode directs current from the alternator to charge the batteries as required. An insulated cylinder provides storage for domestic hot water, which is heated both by the engine when it's running and an electric immersion heater when connected to a shoreline. The roof of the boat has a hatch for going inside. There are air vents to allow for plenty of ventilation. You've got a pole for pushing the boat off if you get stuck on any silt. And there are grab rails running along either side, either for when you're walking along the gunnels or for tying lines to and fenders and so on. At the bow is a compact well deck with a locker to house 1 or 2 13-kilogram propane gas bottles. These are used for cooking and heating. What appear to be lockers in the well deck are in fact an extension of the settee and bed area in the saloon, which I'll show you in a minute. The freshwater tank is underneath the floor of the well deck, filled through that little silver cap you can see at the edge. A metal cratch board with glazed perspex front window allows you to hang a cover over the well deck, keeping the elements out and making it a useful storage area. There's supposed to be a light here for going through tunnels, but all that's left are the 12-volt wiring connections, so that needs to be addressed. It's likely I'll put a solar panel up here too. Stable doors, which open as a separate top and bottom half, lead out from the cabin to the well deck. Right, let's step through the doors and have a look inside. First of all, there are steps to take you down, and there is a little bit of storage under those steps. A cupboard on the left houses a Truma propane-fired blown air heating system, as well as a mains battery charger. And above that you have a little storage cubby, as well as some switches for the 12-volt domestic electrics, like the bilge pump, the freshwater pump, the tunnel light, the navigation lights and so on. On the other side is the engine control panel with rev counter, hours meter, which is clearly broken, as well as the starter switch, and some alarm indicators. I say it's broken because it's currently indicating over 50,000 hours of use, which is just unfeasible. Also in here you've got AC breaker switches, 2 sets of 12-volt fuses, a fire extinguisher, and the isolation switches for all the electrics. On the left as you come down the steps is a 2-person dining area. The table here can be moved down so as to form a bed across the length of the 2 seats. This is then filled in with the cushions from the seats to make your bed. But there's something even more brilliantly ingenious about the way this has been made. Because you pull that out And now you've got bunk beds for the kids. 2 adults up front, 2 kids here. Remove the cushions from a seat, and of course, there's a storage space underneath. In this case, with part of the hot air piping coming out at the bottom of the dinette. Opposite the dinette, on the right-hand side as you come in, is what looks like a large cupboard. It's not a cupboard. In fact, this is the toilet and shower compartment, which boasts a little basin with a tap that pulls out on an extension to become your shower, and it just hangs off this shower rail here. A shower curtain is then run around the space, and what is normally a carpeted floor in front of the cassette toilet becomes your shower tray, with the water sucked away by a pump out through that little hole in the corner. Speaking of the toilet, this is a fairly standard Thetford cassette type arrangement, where you're doing your business into a portable container underneath the seat. When it is full, that is then accessed through this little door. You pull the cassette out and take it to an emptying point, and the rest is best left to your imagination. Okay, let's have a look at the galley. For a small boat, this is pretty good going. You've got a 4-hob gas oven with grill, as well as a sink and a couple of cupboards. Above that, some shelves for miscellaneous items. There's the grill. There's a grill pan in that tea towel. Grilling tea towels is not advised. And quite a decent little oven, below which is storage for pots and pans. The cupboards are decently large, though they lack anything in the way of drawers. And the sink has hot and cold water and a little draining rack. Above you in the galley is an opening skylight for extra light and ventilation perhaps when cooking. You've got a little bit of storage space on the right-hand side of the cooker, and you'll also notice there's what appears to be a flat bit of wood in there. That is actually a table, and I'll show you that in a minute. Opposite the sink, more galley space, which is another cupboard, and a fridge with a small icebox compartment. You've got workspace above, and there are switches for the lights on the left, 2 mains power sockets which are active when you're plugged into a shore line. There's an override switch for the fridge, and there is one old-style car cigarette style lighter socket for plugging 12-volt things into and USB adapters. You also get another shelf overhead. And so we move into the main living accommodation, which, as you can see, is essentially 2 bench seats opposite each other. And notice at the ends those trotter boxes, which were what appeared to be lockers in the well deck. And if you're lying lengthways on these seats, you can stick your feet in the end. However, as you might have guessed by now, that is not the only bed arrangement. Oh no, it's a lot cleverer. You see, what appears to be a front step actually pulls on runners back between the beds, making up an area that is the entire width of the boat. You can then use the side cushions to fill in that space. If you are going to sleep widthways and you've got someone with you, you want the shorter person towards the bow, because it does actually curve in slightly as the metalwork heads towards the bow. But I can confirm that from there to there is perfectly satisfactory for a man who's 5'10". Underneath one of the seats at the front you've got another vent for the hot air system. You've got 2 more main sockets, again they're only live when the shoreline is plugged in. And you also have storage underneath the seats, with, again, rather cleverly, a fire extinguisher bolted onto the back door of that front one for easy access. There's also a second fuse board in that panel, which is for things like the forward lights. You can also get to the underseat storage from above. Though you can't really see it, I have a suspicion that that is the water tank, not the green thing, the thing behind it, the black box. I mentioned that there is normally a table stored here. When brought out, it gives you dining space for 4, 5, well, loads of people could squeeze round there, and then it just folds up again when you've done with it. I mentioned these bow doors. They are split, as you can see in the middle, so you can have them as a kind of barn door arrangement, perhaps to keep a pet more inside while still allowing some air in or something. There's the inside of the trotter boxes, as I've learned they're called, and there's the outside. Needless to say, you're not welcome aboard. I'm an introvert, the last thing I want is visitors, but welcome aboard to this video tour at least. And that's about it, I think. So from me and Mr. Sea Otter here, who was left on board, thanks for watching. Cheerio!